Welcome, UCL fans, to our Season 2 Top 20 Pokemon Countdown. I went through the entire season looking at all of the Pokemon and their kill-to-death ratio as well as the number of matches that they were brought, put them together on a list, and came up with what I believe is a pretty accurate representation of the top 20 mons of this season. So we're going to go ahead and go into this. If you do like this video, I hope you leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, where I'm going to be attempting, I say attempting because it's in holiday season right now and I do work a full-time job as in a retail store, so I don't always have as much time to sit down and record right now, which is why I missed a video last week because it was Black Friday week, but that's neither here nor there on it. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at our top 20 mons. Now, before I actually get into that, I do have three honorable mentions. These honorable mentions had just as many knockouts as the Pokemon in the number 20 spot. They just were knocked out a few more times on it. So we have Volcarona from the Toronto Togekiss, who was 12 and 10. Arcanine from the Philadelphia Feraligatrs, who was also 12 and 10. And then Victini from the Durham Druddigons, who was 12 and 9. So, but let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at our number 20 Pokemon is Reuniclus from the Bronx Bearticks. It was their first UU pick from this season. Had a knocked out 12 different mons, was knocked out 8 times, and was brought to 13 different battles this season for it. And obviously helped get the Bronx Bearticks into the playoffs this season. So, like I said, number 20 is Reuniclus. And number 19, once again from the Bronx Bearticks, we have their second OU pick from the draft, which was Garchomp, who was 12 and 13 out of 8 battles. So even if it had been knocked out in all the battles that it would have been with, it would have then at least tied with Reuniclus, but then had more knockouts, brought less times, but only was knocked out, 3 times, and so, but definitely was a good, strong one, and again, another Pokemon that helped the Bronx Bearticks get into the playoffs this season. So our 19th pick, or 19th, what is it, ranked, you could say, for this is the Garchomp on it. So, in the 18th spot, we have from the Grand Canyon Greninjas, their first UU pick, Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr had a record of 13 knockouts, 10 deaths, or deaths or knockouts, however you want to put it, as well as was brought to 11 matchups. So it only survived in one of the matchups that it actually came to for it, but it is still impressive with 13 knockouts, knocking out more times than it was knocked out on itself, of course, which majority of these mons have been. Even still living in only 1 week is still pretty impressive for them on it. So 18th, ranked 18th, we have Conkeldurr. Moving on to the 17th rank, we have from the 17th from the Pittsburgh Pichus, their third OU pick, Azumarill. Azumarill was brought into 12 battles, had 13 knockouts, and was knocked out 9 times. Azumarill almost helped, of course, the Pittsburgh Pichus make it to the playoffs, but they fell just short in the end for it. Surprising a lot of people doing either a Choice Bandit set or even a Belly Drum Citrus set. Was definitely a vital member for the Pittsburgh Pichus this season, and we'll see what happens with next season as well. But again, that was our 17th ranked Pokemon on this top 20. In our 16th ranked, from the Carolina Keldios, their third UU pick, we have a Zelf. A Zelf was brought into 13 battles and did manage to get 13 knockouts during that time. It was knocked out itself 9 times during the season, so did manage to at least average 1 knockout a match for it, and did at least do some surviving. It was more or less brought, I believe, more as a utility this season more than anything else, but not as much of a big time attacker, but still being able to impress, getting 13 knockouts, at least, like I said, averaging 1 a week every time it was brought. So again, 16th ranked is the Azelf. Our 15th rank comes from the Grand Canyon Greninjas, and it was their second OU pick, we have, and I think it's also, yeah, our first Mega so far, is the Mega Charizard X. Mega Charizard X was brought to 13 battles. Of course, there were 2 battles that were forfeited, so we have to imagine that had they had those other 2 matches, that Mega Charizard would have been brought during that time as well. Did manage to get 14 knockouts, as well as was knocked out 12 times. I think the only time that it didn't get knocked out was the time it actually swept their opponents for that week. So 15th ranked Mega Charizard X from the Grand Canyon Greninjas. Our 14th rank comes from the Toronto Togekiss and was their second UU pick. We have Mega Swampert. Mega Swampert, our second Mega on here, was brought to 14 matchups and did have 14 knockouts. Was knocked out 11 of the 14 times that it was brought on it, but still did pretty impressive. Again, another one that averages about 1 knockout per match on it. So did really well, and once again it was brought. Mega Swampert was drafted in Season 1 by the same team as well. Didn't do as well back then, but definitely did impressive this season on it. So, again, that was our 14th ranked Pokemon. For our 13th ranked, we're going to the St. Louis Rampardos second OU pick. They had the Mega Venusaur. Mega Venusaur was in 14 of the 15 battles during the week. Did get 15 knockouts and was knocked out 12 times, I think. Looking at it, it's again one of the most knocked out mons on this list for it, but it did a lot of damage in return as well for it. So, you know, these things happen with it, but again, it was done really well. It was the first time we know that the St. Louis Rampardos, in any format of that they play in, actually using a Mega Venusaur. We knew we wanted to do that, and kind of was worked against the team in the fact that they also were a lot of reliant on sand. So, a lot. Anyway, back to this 13th ranked Mega Venusaur for this season. In our 12th rank, from the Long Island Regirockies, we have the second OU pick, which was Mega Alakazam. So here we are with our 4th Mega in a row. Mega Alakazam was brought to 14 of the 15 battles this season. Had 15 knockouts, but was knocked out 12 times for it. Definitely did impressive, and you never know what might happen with next season because now that I guess they've changed how the speed stats work now with Mega Evolutions and Sun and Moon. Of course, Sun and Moon has been out for about a week and a half now, so we'll just have to wait and see, if this is going to be a bigger threat next season on it. But again, that was our 12th ranked mon. In our 11th ranked mon from the Bristol City Blazekins, we have their first OU pick, which was Mew. Mew was, of course, brought into 14 battles, did have 15 knockouts this season, and was knocked out 10 times. So that was, of course, even their first OU pick, which I think is our first of the people that got their first OUs in there, doing a lot of good. Again, it was nice to see Mew because it could do so many different things. You can run Mew all kinds of different ways. And I even remember it was in one week it actually outlasted and managed to get the win just by kind of stall tactics, but it ended up working for him in the end. So rank 11, we have Mew. And now moving on into our top 10 of the season. So at number 10, we're starting off with the Tucson Terrakion's third OU pick, Dragonite. Dragonite was definitely pretty good. Was brought 12 out of the 13 weeks that they battled. Had 15 knockouts, was knocked out 10 times. Tried to play risky on a couple things. Mostly ran it as a Choice Bandit set. Tried a couple times for a weakness policy set, but it just never really worked out the way they wanted it for it. But it still managed to punch a lot of holes, especially with its multi-scale ability in there, making sure that it takes half damage from its first hit, assuming that's at full HP at least for it. So cracking into our top 10, the Tucson Terrakions with their Dragonite. In our 9th position from the St. Louis Rampardos, we have their first OU pick, which was Excadrill. Excadrill did manage to have 15 knockouts during the 12 weeks that it was brought. It was only knocked out 7 times. So definitely did a lot of decent work in the 12 weeks I was brought. Again, St. Louis Rampardos really built more of a sand team. It's seen with it with a Tyranitar to set up the sand, and then you can use like Sand Rush, Excadrill, or could even ran Mold Breaker if you don't want to bring the sand with it. But it was definitely first OU pick for a reason, and it shows by becoming like their most, like their biggest MVP mon on this list for St. Louis, at least on it. Moving on to the ranked eighth member of our top 20, we have the Megalodios from the Manchester Magnazones. The Manchester Magnazones brought Megalodios all 15 weeks, and it did manage to get 15 knockouts, and it was only knocked out 7 times. So about half the times it was brought, it was the times that it was knocked out for, or rather, it was brought all times, and turn that down so it doesn't happen again. Was brought all 15 weeks, and I think they did win, obviously, 7 matchups or something for it, which again is better than what they did the first time around for it. This isn't the first time I think Latias has been on the top 20 from our season 1. It was also on there, but it was ranked a lot lower, but it was also not a Mega Latios as well. But this season, with its Mega form, definitely jumped high up in the rankings, so ranked 8th this season on our top 20 mons. At number 7, we move to our Bristol City Blazekins' third UU pick, which was Kyurem. Was one of those ones that I remember during the draft, the coach Game Boy Luke was looking for a Dragon-type mon, and only looked at Kyurem, didn't even look at the next part down before it moved into the RU tier, and saw that Kingdra was still available, so ended up going with the Kyurem, which actually benefited them quite a lot. Was brought in all 15 battles this season, had 16 knockouts, and was only knocked out 10 times itself for it, so definitely proving itself a valuable member on the Bristol City Blazekins this season for it. But of course, only doing in our 7th ranked, not to be outdone by our 6th ranked one, which is the Kyurem Black, which was actually the first OU pick for the Bronx Bearticks. And the interesting thing, too, of course, with the Bronx Bearticks, when they were Season 1 champions, they got to pick one of their mons from Season 1 to be a part of their team. And they also, so not only did they get a UU pick, or an OU pick right away because he drafted his Manaphy, but he also, in the randomizer, got the first overall draft pick. So in a way, he got 2 picks at the very beginning, and so started with Manaphy, and then really his first pick was the Kyurem Black for it. So this was a very scary mon. A lot of people didn't know how to run, what kind of set could be run with it, because it could do a lot of different things. This season, of course, it got 16 knockouts, was only brought to 12 of the battles, but was only knocked out 6 times. So only knocked out half the times it was brought, and it was doing at least, almost, like I said, did more than, 1 knockout per matchup on it. Did, it did a lot of damage this season round for it. And of course, it wasn't even drafted in season 1 for it. They got our 6th rank spot. So, top 5 in 5th place from the Carolina Keldios, helping them get into the playoffs. We have Mega Scizor. Mega Scizor was the first OU pick, of course, from the Carolina Keldios. Was brought to 14 of the 15 battles that it had this season. Had 18 knockouts and was only knocked out 7 times. So it was only knocked out again half the times it was brought, and when it was brought, it definitely did a lot of damage on it. It was one of those things that, you can't always predict how it's going to be run because, of course, how the UCL is. You don't always have to bring it as a Mega, and I think there was even one season where they didn't bring it as Mega. They brought it as maybe like Choice Bandit or something for it to try and punch a little bit more holes in people, but was definitely an impressive one. Carolina Keldios was a team I didn't even at the first couple weeks have on the radar for making playoffs, and then lo and behold, they actually did make playoffs. And it was very impressive, and obviously a big help goes to the Mega Scizor from Carolina Keldios. So again, breaking into the top 5, we have Mega Scizor from the Carolina Keldios. In our 4th spot, from the Toronto Togekiss, their first OU pick, Jirachi. And this was almost no surprise. Jirachi, of course, being almost one of the unofficial mascots of the heated mode because he's used it so much in trolling people because that's what he does as the Hax God himself. Jirachi, of course, did a lot of good. I mean, it was brought into 14 out of the 15 matchups. It was knocked out 10 times, but it had 19 knockouts this season for it. And considering you can run all kinds of different forms, or not forms, but like different types of Jirachi sets, and that it did manage to get more knockouts than even some of the megas that we did have on this list and could be used in that kind of trolley fashion, just goes to show how good Jirachi can be with it. So, fourth place for this season, we have Jirachi. Moving on to our third place, the bronze medal, if you will, for our top 20 Mon. From the Pittsburgh Pichus, their first OU pick, we have Megalopony. And again, Pittsburgh Pichus came up just short of making playoffs in real close matchups for it. And then there was even a time where they had to forfeit one battle just because oversleeping, and it was possibly even, what cost them the playoffs in the end for it. We'll never know for sure, but hopefully we'll get to see that match next season, which, if you've been following, you know which matchup that was. It was my hype match of that week that didn't even happen. I was very sad about that, but show must move on with it. But Megalopony was brought to 11 battles, was only knocked out 5 times, and managed to get 20 knockouts, so almost double, almost averaging 2 kills a match every time it was brought. And there were some times it didn't even get that many knockouts, but I remember another time it got like 4, 5, 6 knockouts. I think one time it did sweep, it got a 6 knockout in it, but it usually got, a lot of good damage on when it was brought for it. Even coming real close. I think one match even went down to timer on it as well, or came really close to the timer on it. But Pittsburgh Pichus, Megalopony, third place for our top 20 Pokemon. In second place, the silver medal from the Real Marill, the runner-up of the UCL this season, we have their Mega Latios, who did come to 9 battles this season, was only knocked out twice. If you think about it, it came to 9 battles. We've had others that have only been, 9, 8, but I think the next closest one that we had on there that had a least number of knockouts but didn't come to a lot of matchups was in our 20th place with our Garchomp from the Bronx Beartics, who brought it 8 battles, was only knocked out 3 times. This was brought to 1 more battle and died 1 less on it. So very impressive on it. The only reason it's not number 1 is just due to the fact of the knockouts that the next Pokemon got. Looking in it retrospectively, I should have probably put it at number 1, but I just looked mostly at the number of knockouts they had before I looked at also how many times it was knocked out and the number of matches brought to it. But in 9 matchups, 22 knockouts. That's averaging more than 2 knockouts per match on it, because if you think about it, doubling from 9 would be 18. So if it had 18, it would do exactly 2 knockouts per matchup, and was on its way almost to 3 knockouts per matchup. If it had only knocked out about another, I think that's 5 more, it would have averaged 3 knockouts a match. So about 2.5 kills per matchup, only being knocked out twice the entire season. The lowest of all of these top 20 Mons for it. Very impressive with the Mega Latios. And then finally, our number 1 ranked Pokemon, based upon the knockouts, battles, everything with it, from our championship team this season, the Durham Druddigons, their first UU pick. We had Mega Blastoise. Mega Blastoise was brought into 14 of the 15 battles this season. It was one that, when I look at, Mega Blastoise, I think it's something that could take hits and can do some damage, but, a lot of people will use it. I feel, again, I'm not a big competitive person, more for, spinning and, punching holes in things after getting rid of, it's like hazard control, if you will, for it, but can, like I said, punch a hole in a lot of walls as well. But it punched a hole in a lot of walls as it did get 24 knockouts this season. And it was only knocked out 10 times for it during the times it was brought. So, definitely impressive. Mega Blastoise, overall MVP of the Durham Druddigons, not only for its knockouts, but also in postseason, which I forgot to mention. All of this is just during regular season. So, like the Real Morel, the Durham Druddigons, the Bronx Bear Ticks, the Carolina Keldios, even though they were in the playoffs, all of those matchups when like they might have used things like I think Mega Blastoise got like another 3 or 4 kills in the postseason alone. That was not factored into this. This only includes the first 15 weeks of regular play for it. So congratulations, Durham Druddigons, picking up not only the #1 Mon, but also the championship again for it. Just a little bit of statistics to show off on this as well. Now, last season, in Season 1, I did the same list, and we had, going through that, and it'll be a big difference for this season. We had 9 OU Pokemon from Season 1 in the top 20 list, 9 UU Pokemon from the top 20, and then 2 RU Pokemon. And of the top 20, only 5 Megas made an appearance on the list. This season, however, we had no RU Mons make an appearance. They were all OU and UU. We had 6 UU Mons, which, of course, our #1 was also a UU pick as well. We had 14 OU Mons, and then if you lost count, there were 9 Megas. So almost not every team, but a lot of teams were represented just based upon their mega performances alone for it. Because, of course, only one team can have a mega at a time. And it was just all overall very well done season with this. Would I've liked to have seen something similar to Season 1 where some of the UU Mons got, or not UU, the RU Mons got some love in this. Yes, but that's not how it always works out for it. Unfortunately, a lot of the teams that were brought only had like 1 or 2 of their, under RU or below mix-ups with them, but were mostly a lot of OU and UU brought teams along the way with it. But that's going to go ahead and do it for our top 20 list. I'm going to try to come back next week as best as I can if I can get more computer time. Fortunately, my wife does take over the computer a lot because this is where she does her school. And we'll try and get another video up for next week where I will be going over my after, like, what would you call it? After season analysis for all the teams. I did a preseason analysis after the draft was over for all the teams, and I'm going to be trying to do that, at least getting 1 or 2 videos out a week if I can, just going over how the teams actually performed this season for it. So don't forget to check back for that. Feel free to subscribe to see when those happen. I know also this Friday I do have another Pokemon TCG opening on. If I had a nice DS with a capture card, I'd be playing Sun and Moon right now, but instead I just play it on my own time for it, because the game is amazing, and I can't wait for UCL Season 3, when they actually will have the Sun and Moon Mons as part of it. So, hopefully, pay attention to their Twitter. I have it linked down in the description below, so that way you know what's going to happen when it actually comes, when they will do all of the Mons for that. And if you watch the video this Friday, I did that. I pre-recorded that like weeks ago. So I shaved all of this off just last week before the video goes up. So if you watch this and watch that one, no, my facial hair does not grow that fast. So excuse me. But that's enough of this for tonight. Check back next week when I should hopefully have. I'll probably start off with the championship team, of course, of the Durham Druddigons, the runner-up team of the Real Morel, and then I'll just kind of go on from there afterwards. But thank you all again very much for watching. You have yourselves a good day. Take care, and goodbye.